Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. I'm Mr. Kadim Khan and I'm a lecturer in the Institute of Computing, Kuwait University of Science and Technology. Today we will take lecture number 10 of the subject of object-oriented analysis and design, and in this lecture we will cover the topics of from functional requirements to use case diagram. Dear students, in this lecture you will cover that how we can convert the functional requirements of the system into a use case diagram. Dear students, as you know that functional requirements are those requirements of the system which provides us complete functionalities of the end users. The end users have certain expectation from the product. So functional requirements are those requirements which are the important part of software requirement specification documents which contains the specific functionalities of the system that will be provided to the end user for performing his or her business task needs. So here we will cover that how a use case diagram can be depicted from the functional requirements. This is the discussion agenda of the class. First, we have the functional requirements. Here, we will define that what is the functional requirements, what are the non-functional requirements, and what is the use cases. Here, we will provide you different examples of the use cases. Then, what is the use case diagram? Here, the important element of the use case diagram is the actor and the relationships of the actor with the use case having include and extend relations. Then we have the use case diagrams, guidelines and cautions, and then we have use case examples. Here you will understand different sort of the examples, and at the end we have common mistakes which should not be taken while developing the use case diagrams. Now, what is the requirement? Basically, requirement represents the user needs or user expectation from the system, and it represents the high level abstract statements. Means that this high level abstract statement should be not in much technical form, and it should be in a simple English format, because the end users or the customers is mostly unaware of the computer terms here. So it should be high level abstract statements of the system services or certain constraints, and then these high levels expectations or system services should be transferred to the mathematical functional specifications. So use case requirements represent certain high level requirements of the end users under a certain constraints. Constraint means that different condition under which these systems expectation or needs should be achieved by the developers. So high level functionalities will be converted into mathematical functional specification of the system. So user requirements are mostly work as a dual functions here. That means that first of all the user requirements act as a bid for the contract. Means that the user requirements work as a ground for the bidding purpose. If we have more requirements, then there will be a high value of the project, and also it has a high cost of the project. So that's why the contract for that project should also be of the high cost. So that means that we must have to keep the user requirements or the requirements of the system open for the interpretations. means that everyone should understand that requirements because that acts as a bid for the contract. And the second one is that the user requirements may be the act as a basis for the contract itself. Means that all the user requirements also act as a contract for the customer itself. So that's why the user requirement must be defined or explained in certain documents which should be in a very much detail. That's why these two above statements are called the requirements of the system. Now there are three different subtypes of the requirements. Number one, functional requirements. Functional requirements are the needs of the end users which the system must provide. And that means that these requirements should be able, in fact, should be provided to the end users, and the system should react to certain way that all inputs should be transformed into the meaningful outputs, and the system will define that how the transformation of inputs to the outputs should be performed in a particular situation. So functional requirements are those requirements which are the basic needs of the end users, and the end user wants these requirements to be implemented in a certain tools and technologies so that the end user's business problems should be solved here. The another types of requirements are called non-functional requirements. These are certain constraints over the systems that the system should be workable in the certain quality attributes. So non-functional are those requirements where the constraints or the system define the quality attributes of the systems. And these constraints are in fact defined by the standard organizations such as CMMI and ISO. For example, the timing constraints, it means that the system should be developed within the specified timing. And also the constraints or the development process. The development process means that there should be the constraints or the product that the system should be developed under agile process or COM or extreme programming, that is the XP process, or it should be developed in the spiral process. So the constraints or the process is also defined as a non-functional requirements. And also we have the standards as well. The standard means that the system should be developed through the ISO or CMMI standard. Now these are big organizations which have standard about the products. So the standards of the product defines the quality of the systems. And that quality is in fact the non-functional requirements of this product. Also we have the third types of requirements called the domain requirements. As its name specify, domain requirements specify the area or the application domain of the system. For example, if we are going to develop the projects, so the domain requirements will be the Android domain or the networking domain or the web domain or from the desktop domain. Similarly, the artificial intelligence, networking, database are also the examples of the domain. So domain requirements represents the system characteristics that depends the area from where the system will be developed. And that area is the type of computer science areas. And there are multiple specialization areas in the computer science. Now Now, after requirements, the use case diagrams represents the system representation and interaction of the end users with the system. To understand the use cases diagram, first we have to define the use case diagram. The use case diagram in fact shows certain set of use cases and also the associated actors and their relationships. So their relationship specifies that which actors is responsible to use a certain use cases. The use case diagram also shows the system functionalities, and each and every functionality of the system will be represented through the use case. So the requirements of the system from the user perspective is represented through the use case diagram. Now there are different sort of the symbols or notation used in the use case diagram. The first symbol is called the use case, and the use case is here represented with this symbols, which is in fact the oval symbol. So it describes the set of the sequence of certain actions which include different variations or the variants of that system performs to the end users so that the tasks of the end users can be performed while interacting with the use case. So it describes certain sequence of actions which includes variations, the system performance, and also yields in the observable values of the actors. Another important element of the use case diagram is called actor. And actor is actually represented through this symbol. So the actors are in fact different people or other systems or certain hardware or software systems which can receive information from the system, and also they provide the input output operation to the certain product or system. The third important element of the use case diagram is called the include relations. And include relations is specified through the arrow lines. And over the arrow line we have include stereotypes here, which specify that the source a certain use case explicitly using the behavior of another use case at a location specified by the source here. Means that when one use case uses another use case or utilizes another use case, then we provide the include relations that this use case is included into another use case here. The fourth important element of the use case diagram is called the extend relations. The extend relations is in fact a relation which provides the target use case the extend behavior of the source. Dear student, as you know that extend behavior is used when we want to perform the generalization or the inheritance. So in the extend relations, we specify that the target use case extends the behavior of the source use case. One will be the target and one will be the source. So from the source, the target behavior is extended. It is exactly like the inheritance, and also it is called the generalization. Now we want to explain it in more detail. So first important element of any use case diagram is called the actor. And the actor can be the human beings or the systems. It can also be the timers. The timers means that particular events and the clocks, which in fact is triggered in a certain time unit. For example, when after 1 hour, if the systems provides certain or rise certain events, then we will say that the timer is on, and the timer in fact provides us the input as this or output as a sequence of certain event, and it can also be certain hardware device as well. For example, if the input is or the operation is performed over the camera, that the camera input is detected and then certain uh, event may be raised. For example, if we want to recognize the behavior of the people over streets, then we will install the camera and the camera will detect the people, and then after a certain unwanted behavior, the system should notify it to the police department. So that is in fact the actor may be a hardware as well. Similarly, actor can simulate the system or certain events, and actor will be used as a initiators of that event, and that sort of actor is called the primary actor, also called the active actor. So active actor or the primary actor is that actor which directly stimulates certain events of the system. For example, if a user is using a keyboard of the system, then that actor is called the primary actor or active actor. So actor can only receive certain stimuli from the system and are called the secondary actor or the passive actors. If certain users which only receives the certain events or the stimuli from the system, then that actor is called the secondary or passive actor, because that actor actually doesn't perform any sort of the inputs, just that actor receives the output. In the other ones, actors are those people or the hardwares or another softwares which have certain interest in the system. Some interest means that librarians is a person who is interested to list down all those students who have borrowed certain books. And similarly, the teacher is an actor who has an interest in the system to provide the marks or provide the complete results of different students. Similarly, actors are those people or hardware or software system who will want to change the data in the system that's provided as an input. Also, actors will want to interface with the system, means that will interacts with the system, and the actors will use the information from the system, or they will take information or data from the system. These systems or people or hardware or softwares are called actors. Now, what are the guidelines for creating the use case diagrams? Number one, use case should be ideally begins with the verb, that is generates report. For example, generate reports is a verb. You must have to start the use case with a certain word. Use case should not be open-ended. That is, register, for example, is in use case. It should be named as the register new user. So it should be close-ended, not open-ended. Avoid showing communication between the actors. So actually actors should not communicate with each other. The use cases should communicate with each other. Actors should be named as a singular. Students, not students. No name should be used here. For example, John, Sam, etc. You cannot use the name of the users. You should use the generalized name of the users. Do not show behavior in use case diagram. Instead, only depicts only system functionalities. By behavior means that the detail level functionalities of the system. We should only depict the functionalities of the system, not the behavior of the system. Use case diagram should not show the sequence like data flow diagrams. In data flow diagram, we provide the sequence of operations, but in the use case diagram, there should be no certain sequence of the operations. So this is the example of the use case diagram. Here a user is a certain user here, and it is a generalized user. This user is interacting with the apply course, because for example a student wants to take a course, then he or she has to apply for the course. But this use case has two different another use case relations here. One is called the login and second one is the view course particulars. So here you can see there are include relations and extends relations here, because apply course has the relation of include with the login. As before applying, the user must have to be login, so that's why this function is including in the apply course. And extend relation is generalization relations, which shows that this use case is a part of the apply course. So it means that view course particulars must be implemented in the apply course here. Now we are again explaining the include and extend relations in the more detail, because the student must be fully experts in using include and extend relations. We will provide you more examples of the include and extend relations here, but first you have the idea of the include and extend relations. So the use of include and extend relations is in fact not implemented because they add unnecessarily complexity of the use case diagram, but that should be the part of the use case diagram. And the primary purpose of the use case diagram is just to show the functionality of the system. So that's why they include and extend relations have little importance here. Here we have a use case diagram examples, and there you can see that we have include and extend relations here. And you can see that there are three different actors: customers, scanning device, and another customers here. And also we have the employee actor. Similarly, we have also the another employee actor here. So here, first of all, customers have to check the video availability inquiry. Means that whether the video is available or not here with us. Also, the employee will also check that the video is available or not. Next, the scanning device, which is a hardware. This scanning device will scan membership ID card of the employee. And also, this will scan the video medium here as well. For example, if the video is generating from a certain text box, then the scanning device will scan the text box and will create the video. Now the customers will enter rental transaction of the video. So means that if the customer want to watch the video for 1 hour or for 2 hours or more than for 2 hours, for example for 2 days, 3 days or for a month, then the customer will provide the rental transactions here. Now also the employee can also interact with the rental transaction here, because if the customers want to see the fee of the transactions, means that the rent of the transaction, then that rent will be set by the employee here. Now, rental transaction has two sub use cases here with the include relations. accept payment and print receipt, and they are in fact inherited, in fact linked with the include relations of the accept payment and print receipt. So when the customers provides rental transactions, then the payment will be accepted and also the print receipt will be created. And these two are included in this use case diagram. Similarly here, the scan membership card also is in fact included with the validated customers. Means that after scanning the membership card, the customer must be validated here. So means that this use case diagram has no relation with any sort of the actors, because this has only relations with the scan membership in card use case diagram, and that is in fact inherited in the include relationship. But enter rental transaction has the extend relation to take deposit. Means that this use case diagram is inherited from the take deposits. That means that it is using this take deposit is used in the inter-rental transactions use case. Now, what should we have to avoid when we want to create the use case diagram? And these are certain mistakes which are commonly used by the students, in fact done by the students. Use case diagrams have a certain mistakes. First, look at these examples here. How you look about this example, you can see that there are multiple actors. One is the user, second course instructor, another user, children of users is another actor. So you can see these are different actors. Another one is here, and you can see another actor is also here. And there are many use cases here. You can see these are book course, doubles, get credit cards, validate credit card, etc. and so on. There are many use cases here. But you can see that there is no certain standard label of the actor here. You will see here there is a certain cap for these actors here, and so many there. You can see that these are not standard. This one is happy face, this one is a sad face. So you can see that there are different use actors, but they have no standard symbols here. Secondly, if you see, these use cases are very much in fact complex, and also they have no sequence assert that which use case is in fact connected with which one. And you can see from this use case there are many other relations of extents towards only this use case. So this is a very complex representation of the use case, and it is not easy to be understandable. So this is not a good use case diagram. So you should always use the standard symbols or the standard notations of the use case diagram. So it should be avoided, and you should not do these mistakes while creating your use case diagram. Now this is another use case diagram. Can you tell me that what sort of the mistakes or what sort of the problem is with this use case diagram? So this is the customer, this is payment, this is user. Here you can see that there are 4 different use cases. Book a course, similarly book a room here, similarly here full capacity exceptions, right? And also we have another, for example, here is the query, that we can create the query of a certain operations. But you here see that this is the extend relation, but this is not proper way of extend scenarios. So this is not proper standard definition of the external relations. Also, you can see that this is the customer is in fact interacting with the payment. Also, customer is, which is an actor, is interacting with another actor. Means that one actor in the use case diagram cannot interact with another actor. In use case diagram, actor can interact with the certain use cases, that is right, but actor cannot interact with another actor. So that is wrong here. Also, you can see that here, this is the bidirectional communication line. In a use case diagram, we have only one line communication diagram, that is from not the bidirectional, it is just one-sided communication should be in the use case diagram. So that is another problem here. So these are two big problems. Also, you can see that whether query, so there is no relation of this use case diagram with anyone here. Also, that means that this is just a useless use case diagram, so it should be avoided. Now, dear student, for your practice purpose, here we are providing an exercise for the discussion here. So draw a use case diagram for this scenario, and the scenario is inventory system. So here you have to write the use case diagram for the inventory system, and these are different statements of the inventory system. In order to generate an inventory system by our inventory invoice by a clerk, first of all the clerk must have to be login. Then after logging, the clerk must be the first time, the clerk is the first time user. Then the clerk must have themselves two registers. Means that the user must be registered from the admin. And then there should be the option of the registration here, and the registration option should be within the login page. Means that login and registration should be in the one page. So any user can use the system to view the online products here. And the option of login should also be provided when a user views the products. So also during the viewing or visiting the products, there should be the option of the login here, and the product should be online. Now it is in fact one of the solution of this scenario. For example, we have the clerk and one is the user here. So the user can log in, user can also be registered. Similarly, clerk can also be the login, and clerk can also register himself or herself. Then the products can be visible or can be viewable to clerks as well as to the user. So user can view the products here, but reports can only be generated by the clerk here. So that's why there is only the relations of the use with this use case diagram with the clerk here. Now dear students, this is the end of this lecture. There are two books for your reading purpose. First book is about the software requirements, and here is the reference of this book, Software Engineering Best Practices, Lesson Learned from the Successful Project in the Top Companies, written by the Keppers McGraw-Hill. And there is also a second book for the UML, that is Practice UML State Charts in C/C++, Even Dynamic Programming for the Embedded System by the Maru Somik. So from these two books you can get ideas about the UML as well as with the software requirements. And still, if you have more questions about these topics, you can ask through the email. My email is mdatkadeem@kust.edu.pk. I will wait for your question and I will respond you soon as I get them. Thank you very much.